You didn't build a business, you built a really well-paid job. And if you stop showing up tomorrow, most of what you know walks out the door with you. That's the sentence I've been sitting with since I started running my AI Insider Lab sessions. And watching the same pattern show up in member after member from completely different industries. One member had 4 decades of knowledge that had never been written down anywhere. Another had prized intellectual property for an entire career, and none of it existed outside their own head. A third had years of thinking scattered across notebooks with zero structure connecting any of it. Different professions, same exposure, extraordinary expertise, zero transferability. Here's the distinction that I believe almost nobody in professional services actually draws. A career is what you did. An asset is what keeps producing value without you standing in the room. Most senior professions spend decades building their career and quietly call it their asset. Let me suggest that for most of your career, that distinction didn't cost you anything. You were the product. Clients paid for your judgment because there wasn't any other way to get it. And that arrangement worked fine as long as you kept showing up. AI changes that equation, not because it replaces your judgment, it doesn't, but because it makes building an actual asset instead of just accumulating a career. AI makes it possible for the first time without having to hire a team of 10 and sinking 5 years into it. The bottleneck was never willingness, it was mechanism. In other words, there was never a practical way to turn decades of judgment into something structured and transferable. You didn't skip that work because you didn't value it. You skipped it because doing it by hand meant researchers and years nobody had. This is where AI stopped being a writing tool and started acting like a relentless interviewer. Used right, it doesn't summarize what you already know. It refuses to let you summarize clearly. It asks you one question at a time and keeps pushing past your first answer, the one that may sound complete, but is actually just a version that you give people who don't have time for the real one. One of our founding members, Dr. Susie, put it this way. What she's been most impressed by is learning to turn AI into a strategic thought partner for both her business and her personal life. That's the entire mechanism in one sentence. I actually ran this process on my own business before I ever brought it into a session. What surfaced were 4 frameworks I've been using intuitively for years with no name for any of them. One of them I now call permission through demonstration, which means the leader goes first publicly so everyone else knows it's proven and safe to follow. I'm telling you the process worked on me, and it will uncover something completely different sitting inside your own head in your own work. Here's what an asset produces that a career does not. When your expertise only exists in your head, clients are paying for your presence, and every negotiation starts from zero. When it exists as a documented, repeatable system, you are not selling hours anymore. You are selling a process that's already proven to work. And that alone supports higher retainers because the client is buying certainty, not availability. It also becomes something that you can capitalize directly. A framework that's been named, structured, and tested can be licensed to other professionals, taught as a standalone program, or built into what a buyer assigns your firm if you ever sell it. For example, our ProPrompt Genius app that we just launched is the same principle in software form. It's not a framework that I talk about anymore. It's a live application in production requiring occasional enhancement instead of our constant presence. A career gives you none of that, and Ascent gives you all of it. If you want to feel this for yourself, here's what I recommend. Open a new AI conversation right now and give it this following instruction or prompt. Interview me about the one thing my business cannot survive without me personally doing. Ask one question at a time. Don't let me summarize early. Push back if my answers sound rehearsed. Most professionals only confront this question when it's forced on them. A health scare, a client who leaves because nobody else in the firm could step into their role, a retirement date that arrives before the plan does. That's the entire argument for doing this now instead of later. The gap between what you know and what you've made transferable doesn't close on its own. It only gets discovered eventually, usually at the worst possible time. So here's the question worth asking yourself this week. If you stop showing up tomorrow, what would actually survive? If the honest answer is not much, you don't have an asset yet. You have a very well-built career, and there is a distinct difference. If you want the exact structure version of this process, the one that takes you from a rehearsed answer to the thing that you've never said out loud, all the details are in the description below.